Hi guys, it's Cheryl here. Today I'm doing a tutorial on a men's underarm sugaring for beginners, so stay tuned. So first, as always, you want to prep the skin area. So first I did cleanse beforehand, and cleansing will just help remove any dirt, oil, debris on the skin that will prevent the sugaring from adhering onto the skin properly. After you're done cleansing, you're gonna want to powder the underarms really well. Powdering the underarms is super vital that you do a really good job in drying out the underarms, because the underarms is a naturally more moist area. So if you don't powder correctly, when you kind of go to lay like your third strip, if the client's skin starts to kind of get a little moist, the sugar is going to just start sliding off. So the underarm area, you do want to kind of over powder that area a little bit to make sure that you really dry it off, and then I just knock off the excess powder onto the bed. And then after I'm done powdering, the next step I'm going to go into is trimming. Trimming is also really important as well in this area, just so that you don't tug the skin or tug the hair and cause any discomfort. I always recommend my guests not to trim at home. I always have them come into the shop. I always prefer to trim my guests in the shop because we can control how much we trim off, because most of the times my guests that trim at home, when they come in, the hair is way too short to get with the sugar. So it's kind of just a waste of time. So always recommend your guests just to come in and you trim them up at the shop. And now, as you can see, I did split up his underarms into 4 different sections. When I sugar, especially when I'm training beginners, I love this method, showing my new sugar techs the 4-quadrant method. So as you can see, we split the underarm into 4 different sections, and now you can see each section is pretty small, so it's a lot less intimidating to work with. And now we can kind of see specifically where we need to trim. So that's awesome as well. You can literally just go section by section, especially for a beginner. If you feel intimidated with trimming or where to start, breaking up the armpit into 4 sections is a really good step, because then now you can just visualize each section, and now you can just work section by section, and now you have somewhere to start with. And now I'm just going to repowder after I trimmed up the areas to my liking. I'm just gonna double powder him up just to make sure that his underarms are really nice and dry. And now you guys see the 4 sections that I blocked off on his underarms. This is just gonna make it so much easier to break up the underarms to do the patterns correctly. So when you're starting off sugaring, or any section when you start off in sugaring, like I said, always try to start off with the perimeters, because typically the perimeters have a lot less hair, and that gives you a good starting off point to flick off, so you don't have a lot of hair that you'll be tugging. So now I found an area that I like that does not have a lot of hair, and that is my starting point. Remember, when you're sugaring, always keep your fingers perpendicular to the skin, and then your left hand follows with pressure. And now, because the underarm is such a smaller area, and I did section it off into 4 quadrants, and now each little section is even smaller, doing finger tweezing is a really good method. And finger tweezing is just using one finger and putting a little sugar on it and going in and molding and doing sections that way. This is also just as efficient as doing the bigger strips. But actually I think it's cleaner and better because you can literally go section by section and really follow the hair growth pattern. And another thumb of rule I always follow, you do not move on to your next section until your first one is absolutely clean. So do your initial strips, do your cleanup strips. If there's a couple hairs that you absolutely can't get, even with the finger tweezing, then you can leave those and move on to your next section and then get those at the end when you're completely finished. So now, just moving on to my next section. And I always like to overlap my old sections into my new ones just to make sure I'm getting the skin really nice and clean. Same thing, remember after you flick, always apply pressure. And with the underarms, guys, it's super important that you really hold the skin taut. I feel like the underarms are also one of the easier parts to bruise, so make sure you're really holding the skin taut. And now I'm just doing some more finger tweezing. And you guys, this is my guest's first underarm sugaring, so I'm excited to see how he likes it and his results. And you guys can see how easy it is seeing the 4 sections split up like that, just following each section and then slowly working your way into the center from the perimeters. It's just so much easier to visualize. And then eventually, you guys, you won't even have to draw out the 4 different sections. You'll just be able to mentally visualize it, and you guys won't actually have to draw it out. So this is what I do for all my body sugaring. Always, before I start, I always like to visualize 4 different quadrants on any body section that I'm working on, and that gives me a better blueprint to work with. And remember, guys, each section or each quadrant, make sure to follow the hair growth pattern correctly. Especially if you're working with a guest whose underarms are a lot thicker, then you really want to make sure that you're following the hair growth pattern correctly. And like I said, breaking it up into these 4 sections will really help you be able to visualize that. And now we're going to do the same thing on the underarm. And now I found where I want to start, where there's the least amount of hair. And now what I'm going to do is hold the skin really nice and taut. As you can see, guys, my client's skin is really nice and tight. He doesn't have any loose skin, but I am still holding his skin taut. Always remember that. And you can see I'm just starting off with the perimeters. Left hand follows, pressure. And now we're going to just start working our way in, overlapping our old sections into our new ones to make sure that our work is super nice and clean and that we are getting all of the hair. And now we're just moving on to the next section. Same thing, just following the hair growth pattern. And I'm readjusting my end point to make sure that my strip is ending on an area with not a lot of hair, so that when I flick off, there is no tugging. And now I'm just finger tweezing, cleaning up any little hairs that were left behind before I move on to the top sections. And as you can see, you guys, those hairs do grow up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the sugar in a downward motion slowly and then flick up. Also, you guys, if you guys have any questions, please leave them below and DM us. If you also want me to do this method of breaking up the 4 quadrants on any other body part, I'll be gladly to show you guys. So now we are almost done with the underarms. But another tip, guys, that I see a lot of people doing is don't ever apply your sugar or your wax to the whole underarm for the first strip. I see people laying 1 strip all over the underarm and then ripping it off. That is like the #1 way to break a lot of hair on the underarm area and cause a lot more work for yourself. And you'd probably have to go in and tweeze all those little individual hairs that were broken from doing a strip like that. Because when you lay a strip on the whole underarm like that, you're not following all the hair growth patterns on the underarm. And now, you guys, this is a close-up of the side so you guys can get a better view of the application process. So same thing, we cleansed, and now we are just powdering up the underarm. And as you guys can see, his underarm is on the longer side, so that is why I did decide to trim. So I'm just making sure we're really pushing that powder into the skin. And now I'm just taking a look, visualizing the sections, seeing where I want to start. And see, I starting at the perimeter of where I found the least amount of hair. So see, guys, always apply the sugar in a perpendicular fashion to the skin. So fingers are always in a perpendicular position when you are molding it onto the skin. And now you can see up close how I finger tweeze. When you work with sections this small and such little hair, you can go a little bit faster. So this can be just as quick as doing bigger strips if you work efficiently. Let's see, I'm literally just finger tweezing, finger tweeze, flick, pressure, done. Move on to the next section. Super quick. And painless, or I shouldn't say painless, almost virtually painless, because you're doing such small strips. So it's so much more comfortable for your guests. So I'd really advise you guys to master this technique when starting off, is breaking up your sections into 4 quadrants, starting off with smaller strips, but becoming fast at doing those small strips. Because when you get clients that have really thick hair or super sensitive skin, or first time guests that aren't used to the pain of hair removal, this method will be your best friend. And then after that, once they see you a couple times and their hair thins out, you can go a lot more faster because there'll be a lot less hair, it'll be a lot more finer, thinner. And now I'm just finishing up the bottom half before I start on the top. As you can see, I'm still using my finger tweezing method. If you guys have any questions about this method, please leave them down below. I would be more than happy to answer them. Yeah, so now that should be all clean. And now when I do the top half, I'm gonna readjust my body and my hands and come over to the other side. And now you guys can see. So this is the actual speed of the video. I don't have it slowed down or sped up. So this is the pace that I sugar at. Not too slow, not too fast. Applying pressure. And you guys can really see the sections that I'm taking, how small they are. But I'm getting them done just as fast as somebody doing a big strip. And now we're on our last section. Remember, hold the skin really nice and taut to avoid any bruising. And now we're gonna lay down our last section. Remember guys, all your strips should be equal opacity throughout the whole strip. You shouldn't have any part of your sugar strip that is see-through, because if it is and you go to flick, not all the sugar will be removed from the skin and it will cause tugging. So make sure that your sugaring strips look even through and through. And that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said before, if you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you guys soon. Bye.